Hello, hello, you guys. This is NSD Leah Lachlan. Welcome back to our 90 Days of Greatness. We are like winding down here, you guys, and sprinting to the finish line as we wrap up our last few hangouts over the next few weeks. And so this is the week that we catch up, right at the end. This week I'm going to combine two of the topics, and those topics are tracking. Aren't you excited? And delegation. We're gonna combine those two. And then after this week, we will have two topics left that we'll finish up, okay? You're either super excited about the tracking one or you're like clicking the off button on your computer right now. I know there tend to be two different camps, people who love tracking, maybe even love it a little bit too much, and then people who dread it and who aren't naturally desiring or wanting to do that in their business. And so, so regardless of where you're at, well, let me speak to the people who aren't super excited about tracking. I think people think it's a personality style. And either you were born with a personality style to like tracking or you weren't. And I observe many directors using either their personality style, like I don't have any C in me, as a reason or an excuse or even validation as to why they don't track, okay? And so how is that working for you, my friend? Because I believe, and I'm not the only one who believes this, that it will always be some sort of obstacle between you and your goal. Maybe a big obstacle, maybe a smaller obstacle, depending on other variables. But here you are, and here's your goal, and you're trying to go get your goal. And if tracking is not at least some part of your life and your business, it just is constantly a stumbling block, and you're running towards your goal and then like you stumble again, and you're running towards your goal and then you don't hit it again. And so to clear as many obstacles out of the way as we possibly can, tracking is one of those things. It's just removing a stumbling block. It's creating a clear path for you to get towards your goal, often faster too, when you track. And when I say track, gosh, it's a lot of different things. You guys, so don't get all caught up in the how with tracking. I don't care if you take a pencil and a napkin and write stuff down. Like, it does not have to be complex. You do not have to have pretty sheets. You do not even have to have spreadsheets. It can be however your brain likes to work and function and whatever's supportive to you. So when I say track, I do very much encourage each leader to embrace her own style and form of tracking that is most supportive to you. So don't get all hung up in the how. And don't think like, oh, if I just have the perfect tracking sheet, or if I track like she does, or if I use these, then I'll have the answer. No, it's not like that. It is just a tool. It's a tool that supports and accelerates your success, regardless of the specifics of the tools that you use. Okay, so I'm going to provide just a lot of tools and thoughts and ideas and resources. And then you, leader, you pick and choose what would be supportive. And if you're not in the rhythm of tracking, just pick one or two ways. You don't have to completely revolutionize the way you track. In fact, I wouldn't even recommend that, because we don't have the capacity to take on so many new things all at once. So pick one or two things and start tracking them, okay? So tracking is like your gyroscope. Every airplane has a gyroscope, and that's what allows that plane to actually land on the runway it's intended to land. If a plane is flying from LAX to JFK, all the way across the country, if it's only 1 degree off on the route, only one, just one, it will actually land 250 miles away from its intended destination. And so what the gyroscope does is, as that plane is flying, it's always going off track. like off track, off track. And the gyroscope is pulling it back on track during the whole flight so that it lands where it needs to land. If you're intending to land at JFK, you do not want to land 250 miles away from JFK. You want to land on the runway you're meant to land on. Okay, so same with tracking. Tracking is like your gyroscope. You're on this journey towards your goal. And you want to land on the goal, my friends. I want to land on my goal. And we get off track constantly on the journey. And that's normal. That's not even the problem. We're all going to get off track on the journey. That's a part of the journey. That's a necessary part of the journey. So the problem is not that we're getting off track. It's that we're not getting back on track. We get off track and we don't even realize it. And all of a sudden, we're 250 miles away from our intended destination. And so tracking is the tool, the gyroscope that keeps pulling you back, keeps pulling you back, keeps pulling you back to the focus, the numbers, the intention, the work, the activity, and all the things that it takes to land where you intend to land. Okay, so remember that. If tracking is not a part of your systems right now in your business as a sales director and in your life, just picture your airplane like going way off track. Picture yourself wanting to land at JFK but landing in Georgia. Okay, you don't want to land in Georgia when you meant to be at JFK. So tracking is part of the solution, okay? Of course, what you focus on grows. It's just a natural life thing. What you're going to give energy to is going to grow, whether it's positive or negative. We give energy to drama, drama grows. We give energy to joy and gratitude grow. And so tracking is a way for us to give energy to the numbers that we want to see grow. Also, you cannot change what you do not know. You do not know what you do not track. That little phrase became very real to me, or the first time I really experienced the truth of that phrase, that you cannot change what you do not know. You do not know what you do not track. Well, there's multiple ways I experienced this, but I'll tell you the story that you probably have heard before. Is as a new director, I tracked our unit recruiting average and came to discover that it was we were recruiting 1 out of every 7 that we were sharing with. And that's not necessarily a stellar average. And so I saw that and I'm like, well, that sucks. Let's make that better. And so I went to school. I became a student of multiple different skills that I wanted to develop to get better at that. And I always look back and think, what if I would have never known it was 1 out of every 7? I could have easily never known that. How did I know? It's because I used this stupid spreadsheet all year long that I think I am the only person in Mary Kay that uses it. Not even my directors. I've told them to use it. I don't think anybody uses it. I literally think myself and one other director that I know are the only 2 who use it. Doesn't matter though. Doesn't matter. You're probably using something else that helps you to know. But do you know your unit recruiting average for the past year? Do you know it? 1 out of every what? And is it based on like real data, or is it just a guess? Because we want to base it on real data. And so I could see, because I tracked, that it was 1 out of every 7. That sucked. So I went to school on that skill. And then the next year is 1 out of every 3 or so. Okay. So massive improvement, because I knew that it wasn't good because I was tracking that number. What if I would have never known? Possibly would not be a national sales director right now. And I'm not kidding you guys. Okay, little tweaks and changes like that, it gets you off insanity cycles. I could have stayed on that insanity cycle of sharing with lots and lots of people, because that wasn't the problem. I was in front of a lot of people. I just didn't have the skill set at that time to get the yeses that were there. The yeses were there, I just wasn't getting them, you know? And so I could have stayed on that insanity cycle, and we could have stayed at 1 out of every 7 for years instead of 1 out of every 3. Do you know we would have recruited half less, like the people we recruited, cut that in half, okay, if I wouldn't have developed that skill. And if you would have cut in half the number of new recruits we were bringing on, you guys, that means we would not have earned trips, and we would not have had the amount of offspring sales directors that we did, and we would not be a national area. If you cut our new consultants that came into my unit over a 5-year time frame in half, you can just cut every other number in half. Cut my unit club in half, cut my income in half, cut my offspring sales directors in half, just cut it all in half. And I don't want half. I want the full. I want the full number. And so, so that's just one little plug for tracking. You cannot change what you do not know. You do not know what you do not track. And so what blind spots could you possibly have just simply because you don't know your numbers? Okay, so another time outside of my Mary Kay world, another time I really experienced this was was with money management. And I'll save that story for next week when we touch on money management. But I was not in the rhythm of tracking our financial world like I began to. And the first year I tracked our numbers. Our income did not change that much, but we saved $30,000 more. And in addition to what we had saved the previous year, and the only thing that changed is I was tracking it. We weren't even on a budget. I don't even feel like my lifestyle changed that much. The only thing that was different is I was tracking, and tracking leads to awareness, and awareness leads to different choices, and choices lead to different habits, and habits change your life. But it started with tracking the actual numbers, okay? So you cannot change what you do not know. You do not know what you do not track. Okay, so all winners are trackers. This is not a Mary Kay thing, you guys. This is a world-class thing. Professionals, business owners, CEOs, athletes, all winners are trackers. And so I know you want to be the best you can be in Mary Kay. I know you do. I know you want to be the best leader, best director you can be. So don't let this be like the handicap. Don't let it be the weak link, because it's such a simple tweak. It really is. Even if you're not a numbers person, even if it's not what you consider your personality style, it's such a small little tweak that can really produce so much growth for you. Okay, so then another part of tracking is that your subconscious mind is constantly working for you to bring what you're focusing on into reality. Your brain is a goal-oriented machine. Your subconscious mind is working constantly in the background. And what it's working for is what your conscious mind is focused on. It's actually really fascinating and incredible and mind-blowing, and the thumbprint of an amazing creator who made us, that our subconscious mind can work to our advantage, of course, depending on what you're focusing on. But when you're focusing on good things that you want to have grow, and your mind is looking at the numbers, crunching the numbers, tracking the numbers, considering the numbers, you have this advantage of a subconscious mind that's goal-oriented, that wants to bring energy and growth to what your mind is focused on. It's going to work for you. Tracking cures what ails you. You have a money problem, track what you spend. You have a weight problem, track what you eat. Again, it goes back to tracking, bringing new awareness that brings new choices, that brings new habits, and habits change your life. And so any kind of issues you have in your life, or issues below the issues, start tracking it, and just watch that area of your life start to flourish and grow and evolve. Okay, so why don't we track? Why don't we? I think there's multiple reasons. Some people just aren't naturally drawn to it, or don't like numbers or are uncomfortable with numbers. And I just want to encourage you, this is not anything complex. Like if you got an F in math all throughout school, you can work with the kind of numbers we work with in Mary Kay. I mean, grab a calculator and you're good. This is not any kind of complex stuff, you guys. Yeah. I think we also don't track because just lack of organization. And so I would just recommend some kind of folder or binder that you can keep everything in one place, so that it's like your tracking binder and all your papers or whatever are in one place. Or maybe if you like to be digital, it's all in one folder on your iPad, your computer, your phone. You could do that. Some people like to just have visuals up in their office. So it could be all on one whiteboard or poster or goal poster or tracking sheets. I know I have several directors who like to track visually somewhere in their office. So have some kind of form of tracking that feeds your mind most effectively, and just have some level of organization. Like if you can never find the sheet that you're supposed to track on, obviously that's an obstacle to tracking. And so get your sheets in one place. I think another reason why is people don't know where to start with tracking, because there's so many things. And so where do you even begin? I think a good place to start is the Power Program tracking sheet, and just track personal business numbers. It's a great place to start. And then you can start adding in additional things that we're going to go over here that are in the workbook. But if you're really at a place where you're like, I don't even know where to begin, Power Program tracking is a great place. And that's really the first tracking sheet I used in my life, possibly. And it taught me so many things. It taught me the value and the concept of tracking. I think another reason why we don't track is because it's painful. Because it forces us to look at numbers that we may not want to see. And I get it. There's many times I didn't want to pull up the InTouch report because I had a feeling of what it was going to say and what it was going to look like. And I just didn't want to see it. I didn't want to face the reality of a number I didn't like. Right? And so to avoid that pain, we don't track. And therefore, we just put salt on a wound. Okay, if you're not where you're at in your business and you don't want to see it, so you don't look at it and you don't track, you're just taking a problem and compounding it and making it bigger. Right? So go through the pain. I'll tell a quick story about that. Our very first year as a unit, I actually wanted to earn the prestige trip. Okay, so we finished at 650, but I actually wanted to finish at 800,000, and that's what I tracked all year. And the reason why is because the prestige trip that year was to Prague, and then the main trip was to Germany. And Prague just sounded so cool. I mean, I didn't know anything about Prague, but it just sounded like a place you would want to go. And so I'm like, I want to go there. We want to do prestige trip. And so I tracked 800,000 all year, even though in my heart, I was going to be okay if we missed the prestige trip. Just earning a trip to me was going to be, a victory for my first year as a director. And Germany was really exciting, and Cliff was really excited about that. And so it got down to the end, and it was looking like we weren't going to finish prestige trip. Okay. So, in the beginning of the seminar year, how you can divide your unit club retail that's left over 11 months, and then 10, and then 9. And that's kind of nice. You can divvy it up over several months. But then once it gets down to the end, when you're only dividing by 3 and then 2 and then 1, because that's all the time you have left, that number really starts to compound if you're not on track, right? And so it was getting down to the last quarter, and that number was just growing. We were not on track for prestige trip. We weren't even really on track for the trip to Germany, much less the prestige trip. So that number was just looking bigger and bigger and bigger. And I remember in June, when I was going to track and look at my numbers, I didn't want to look at 800,000 because I knew it was going to be ridiculous. I think we would have had to do like 200,000 wholesale that month, you guys, which is like laughable. Has anybody ever done 200,000 wholesale in 1 month? I don't know, probably somebody. But it was just like laughable. Like even like a dream big, you can do this mentality. It was still like something you would laugh at. The number was that big. And so I was like, I'm not even going to look at it. Let's just focus on 650. But I forced myself to look at the 800,000 number and just figure out and just go through the practice of considering what that would take. And so I took that number and I figured out our base production. I figured out what was left in new people, and I figured out how many agreements we would need to add, and I figured out how many stars we would need to add. And I like forced myself to look at it, crunch numbers, and actually write it down. And it was painful. And then it became funny because it was so beyond my reach. And I knew that. But I made myself do it. And there was a lot of benefit to that because a stretched mind doesn't go back. So anytime you can stretch your brain around something that's beyond your grasp, you guys, that's good. Even if you can't grasp it, just like you work out to build your muscles, you're working your brain to expand and to think bigger and to consider, what if that was possible? What would that look like? What would those numbers be like? Okay, so you let your brain expand. And an expanded, dream big, think big brain just doesn't shrink back to its normal size. So you have an expanded brain, even if you don't finish the goal. So that's one benefit. The other benefit of stretching your mind around really big numbers is all of a sudden the number we really had to do seems so doable. I'm like, after you look at 200,000 in production and figure out numbers for that, 60,000 doesn't seem so bad. And that's what we needed to do. We needed to do 60,000, and we ended up that month with 56,000 wholesale because of the retail bonuses you get with stars. That we added so many stars that it made up for that 4,000 wholesale. So we ended with 56. But I remember figuring out that I needed to do 60. And literally, after looking at 200,000, 60's like, we got this, even though we had never done anywhere close to 60 or 56. And so that's another benefit of forcing yourself to look at numbers that are possibly painful. You guys, we cannot walk around with the wool over our eyes and in denial and pretending not to know and not knowing, because we're not looking at our numbers. Again, you're pouring salt on a wound and making it hurt worse to avoid tracking because you just don't want to see what the number is, okay? Put your big girl panties on, my friends, and look at the numbers anyways. World-class leaders are comfortable being uncomfortable. And so just get really uncomfortable, lean into the tension, embrace the pain of looking at numbers you'd rather not see. I'll tell you a quick story before we go through some of the tools. I read this in the book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and it was about a study that they did on a group of people who were obese. It was 1,600 people, and they divided them into two groups. And no, they didn't. No. Let me get this right. They had the group, and all they told them to do, this is what it was. All they told them to do was track what you eat. They weren't on a diet. They had no restrictions. They weren't given a goal. Most of them didn't set goals. The only instructions they had were keep a food journal and just journal what you eat. And so they had a time frame that they did this over, and not everyone stuck to it. You know, imagine that. Some people just didn't do it or fell out of the habit. But the group who journaled throughout the entire time frame of this study lost 2 times as much weight as everyone else in the group did who didn't track. And I tell you that just to another plug, another example of tracking, that tracking alone creates change. Even if you're not setting a new goal, even if you're not changing much about what you do, tracking in and of itself is transformative and effective and powerful, even if you haven't made choices or decisions to change anything else. Tracking alone creates positive change because, again, it's the whole awareness thing. Tracking leads to awareness, leads to different choices. Choices create habits. Habits change your life. Okay, everyone tracks differently. We've talked about that already. I don't care if you have a napkin and a pencil. That's great. Use it. And then make it somewhat systematic. So when could you track? Let me tell you some key times that I tracked. It was as a month closed out and was opening up. It was a part of just opening up a new month was to relook at all my numbers, my unit club numbers, car numbers, unit qualifieds, new people, star tracking. There's just some key reports on InTouch that I pulled up that helped to inform me of strategy and where to go and what to do for the new month to continue in pursuing our goals. Okay, so beginning of the month was a big time, and then little ways that I tracked. I mean, after every party, I would often sit in my car and fill out my Power Program tracking before I even got home. So that was sort of more of a daily thing. Mid-month, I would relook at things. I almost mentally had 2 months end. I tried to finish certain things by the middle of the month, and then you finish the month at the end of the month. But the middle of the month was almost like a mentally imposed deadline for me to take a look at how many new agreements do we have right now? Who's finishing their star? Are we on track for the wholesale goal that I wanted? Where's my personal business numbers at? There were certain benchmarks I wanted to hit by the middle of the month. And then, of course, by the end of the month. So how could you make it systematic? Maybe I have some directors who track daily. I have some who track once a week. Again, that's something that I think is discretionary and up to you. And don't get all hung up again on the how. When the why and the what are clear, the how works itself out. And your how is far better than my how for you. And my how for me is far better than your how for me. So leader, take ownership of your business and your leadership, and you figure out the how and what would be most effective for your business, your mind, your unit. Okay, so let's talk about tools we use to track. So I referred to this already, the spreadsheet, which somehow did not make it in our packet. As I'm looking at our packet, I'm like, where's the dang spreadsheet? I believe, you know what? It's not in here because it's really not helpful to be in here because it's an Excel spreadsheet that has formulas in it. So it's in our pin, and it is a one-page spreadsheet that tracks pretty much every number you could possibly track in your business so that you are aware. Okay, that's where I got the 1 out of every 7. That's where I found that out, was on that spreadsheet. And that's the spreadsheet that nobody else uses but me. If you happen to use it, oh my gosh, I would love to know. I'd be so encouraged that someone else uses a tool that I like lived and died by that. Lived and died. I don't know what I would have done without it. I could go back and tell you numbers back from 2009 and 10 up till today based on that spreadsheet. It has informed me and helped me with strategy for a decade now. So give it a shot. Try it out. Maybe it'll work for you. But it tracks all your numbers, and then at any point in the year, you can see your average, because average is really more important than any 1 month's numbers. Okay, so super, super helpful. And how I learned to do this tracking sheet, you guys, is from Pam Shaw's Beat Your Best. When I was a new director, I was told to send Beat Your Best to Pam Shaw every month. And so I'm like, okay, I will do that. And so I printed Beat Your Best, and it was like reading a different language to me. I didn't even understand what stuff was, much less where in the world to find it on In Touch. But I forced myself to go through the painful process of Pam Shaw's Beat Your Best. And I went through it and I went through it and I went through it again. It took me time to figure out what was what and where to find it and how to look at it. And then you wait till like the report updates, because the reports aren't all updated on the 1st. So then I had to like go back and look once it was updated on like the 5th or the 6th or the 7th. You never know when it's going to be. And so I went through that painful process of learning a new language and a new skill. That taught me to make this spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet just happens to work better for my brain than that Beat Your Best did. And then I took that spreadsheet and I made it kind of more pretty. And it's the Beat the Best that's in your packet, you guys. This pretty much covers all of the spreadsheet minus no, it doesn't really. Just kidding. Yeah. There's going to be some overlap with Beat Your Best numbers in the spreadsheet. And I love the spreadsheet because you just need one for an entire year. Whereas Beat Your Best, you're getting a new one filled out every single month. It's in the brain book. The spreadsheet keeps track of like your year-long averages. But it was like, I've got to give a shout out to Pam Shaw. It was her Beat Your Best that taught me to think like that, which essentially taught me to think like a top director and taught me the numbers I needed to look at to create a top trip unit and then eventually a national area. Okay, so if you're ready to take on the next level of tracking, Beat Your Best and that seminar year-long tracking spreadsheet would be great places to start. If you're not ready to do that, start with Power Program tracking. Okay. Projecting your production. You guys, you can have a couple of worksheets in here. I learned this from Linda Tupin, and this is a part of how I opened up every month, is that I would project what it looked like we could possibly do that month. And Linda Tupin teaches you to cover up in names and look at a 6-month window of time, and you'll notice patterns emerge with your people. It was never beneficial for me to cover up names, and so I would just look at the names and look at the pattern too, but look at the names and then just write a number by everybody's name, whether it was 0 or 2000. I would project conservatively, okay, very conservatively, because you don't want to think you have something that you don't have. That's no fun. You just set yourself up to be disappointed. So don't do that. But I would very conservatively just guesstimate and project what it looked like our base could produce. So my base unit plus myself. I also had an average, a year-long average of what our base unit was producing. So that number informed me as well. But you know how like months are different. Like in March, you finish a star quarter and it's a car finishing month. So March is typically a bigger, more abundant month because of those deadlines. Anytime a month comes around that a new product is launched, that's going to be a little heftier of a month because people want the new products. And so you want to take those variables into consideration. But the goal is that you would understand what your base is producing. And Linda Tupin, I've used these off and on over the years. That light just shines so brightly, you can't even see this. I'm talking about this right here. And you literally fill in the boxes with names. And it's a nice visual to see like, okay, here's what I expect, what's left. And you just count up the empty boxes to figure out what's left. And then you know that's the amount you need to bring in new production. And then you have that number and you strategize from that number. And then that creates your activity plan, your work plan for that month. So super helpful tool to use. Coffee and strategy, you guys. Do you know that Pam Shaw's coffee and strategy, her newly updated document, just came through on my email today or yesterday? So very timely, right? So I will share it with you. I would gladly, happily share that document with you. This came from her brilliant mind, and it is a series of questions to consider when you close out a month and you're opening up a new month, and you go through and you answer them. And this was another amazing tool that I used to learn to think like a top director, to learn to find wins for my people, to learn to find production. So super, super helpful. Slightly overwhelming going through it for the first time. Slightly painful to consider some of the questions that are asked. But again, we are world-class leaders and we are comfortable being uncomfortable. So just get uncomfortable, my friend, going through coffee and strategy. And she calls it coffee and strategy because she says, go to Barnes and Noble or Starbucks or wherever you love to get your coffee, and then take a couple hours, a couple quiet, undistracted hours to work through this, to inform strategy, effective strategy for the new month. Okay. And then I tracked seminar qualifieds, which I am guessing you guys are all over that because of the Great Start program and how the definition of qualified has changed in our world. And so I tracked it because it got the most recognition. In Pam Shaw's area, her queen, her #1 director, is not based on wholesale production. It's based on number of brand new seminar qualifieds that year. And so the biggest reward, recognition, prestige was given to that category. So you better believe I freaking tracked it because that's where I wanted to win. And so I obsessed over our qualifieds. Like I hope you are obsessing over your Great Start qualifieds this year. So I tracked that. Also in the Brain Book, the 15-day tracking, you can do anything for 15 days. So that is just a simple one-pager that can help you stay on track. A lot of it involves personal work. We've talked about the career survey tracking sheet. We've already covered that. I lived and breathed, lived and died by that career survey tracking because it tracked the number of people I was in front of, and that was my one thing. That was my one thing as a director that created so much growth. And then I do have in here one page of how I start and close a month, and a lot of that involves different tracking systems. Okay, so are you ready? Are you ready for your new life and new growth that is going to come from these tracking systems? All right, let's move on. We're going to pivot into delegation. Delegation. Okay. It is a lifelong skill that you will use and develop, and it is a skill to learn to delegate. I was at the NSD Summit as a brand new national sales director, and Inner Circle NSD, #1 NSD, and Mary Kay, Gloria Mayfield Banks, was doing a Q&A. And all of the NSDs could submit questions to the Inner Circle NSDs. And one of the questions from a national sales director was, besides the obvious, how do you observe, or why do you think some national areas aren't growing as fast as they could? Something to that effect. You know, besides the obvious, what is one thing or one piece of advice that she would give to national sales directors to create more growth and more accelerated growth? And I'm like, I wonder what she's going to say. And she said something that I did not expect at all. And she said that there's not enough delegation or effective delegation. I'm like, the #1 NSD is telling national sales directors they need to delegate more and delegate more effectively. And that has stuck with me over the years, you guys, because it's not the answer I expected, but I believe in that answer. And when there are people who've gone before you who've had levels of success, of course, like Gloria has, like, you listen to what they say. I know that's like a simple statement, but so profound. Like, you listen to what people say who have gone before you, who are in places that you want to be. You listen. And whenever we dismiss what some of those leaders are saying, is important, we basically slow down our journey. Like we just slow it down, or we unnecessarily delay it, or put a lid on the potential growth that could happen. Okay, and we all do it. We all do it. Like we get this advice, but we don't like the advice, so we're like, I'm not going to do that. When often it's the one thing that would create accelerated growth. Okay, so I know you have all done this with delegation. You've heard this. This is nothing new under the sun here, what I'm about to say. It's not new. It's stuff you already know. But how much have you dismissed it over the years and have not really heeded the advice of people who've gone before you, that for an entrepreneur, a work from home entrepreneur, building her own business, if delegation is not a normal part of your life, sister, you just put a lid on potential growth. You have slowed down your progress and your growth, and you have delayed your journey to wherever it is that you want to go. Okay, so let the truth of that like sink in, because it is the truth. I have never seen sustained growth. Yes, maybe a flash of growth or a flash of success or a flash of really moving up to the next level, but I've never seen it be sustained by a leader who doesn't effectively use delegation in her life and in her business. All right. So Amy Kemp did a survey. Have you guys seen it? It's in your workbook. She did this years ago. It was a delegation survey where she asked people how much help they had, what unit, club, or car that the level they were at. And the key pivotal question was, did you hire help before or after growth? And so she did the survey, and the people that she asked, I was one of them. We didn't know what she was trying to prove or what she was trying to do. It's just a couple simple questions she asked myself and other top directors and all kinds of directors, lots of directors in Mary Kay, both in her circle of friends and outside of her circle of friends. She just asked people, hey, I'm curious, how much help do you have? How much does that help come in? Or how many days is that help available to you? Like 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, 7 days? Okay, so how much availability does that help have? And then did you hire the help before or after growth? And it's a very telling survey. You can check it out in the workbook. But basically, hours of help equaled unit, club, and car levels. And the more help, the higher the unit, club, and car level. And of course, you logically think, well, yeah, of course, $1 million director needs more help. But then here's the question that is very telling. Did you hire the help before or after the growth? And almost overwhelmingly, it was before or during. Before or during. Nobody became $1 million director and then hired an assistant in childcare and a housekeeper. I don't think it's ever happened, you guys. Okay, so hear me. Hear me. Nobody earned a Cadillac, did a unit club, did the trip, did the million, and then hired help to maintain that level of growth. The help came first, the growth followed. All right? So let that sink in a little bit into your heart, into your mind. Embrace that truth, because it's not going to go away. It's not going to change, and you're not going to be the exception. You're not going to be the one who gets to earn her Cadillac without delegating some stuff and moving some stuff off your plate so you can be the most effective leader that you can be. Okay, so yeah, the main objection, I mean, there's so many objections, you guys, because this is like there's layers of complication to this. I mean, I realize some of your spouses or husbands or significant others don't like the idea of someone cleaning your house. Therefore, you don't have a housekeeper. So sometimes it's not even you, it's who you live with that is maybe not open to having help. So there's that challenge. I know the main objection is I need to make some money first before I can pay someone. But that just, you enter into this vicious cycle of not growing So not having the income to pay someone, so therefore not having help, so therefore not growing. It's a vicious, ugly cycle, you guys. And I don't know, just go spend the money and then figure out how you're going to make it. Maybe you just need a little positive pressure. Maybe you just need someone to pay. Like, dang, I got to pay her for her help. So I better go do something so I have some money to pay her. Maybe you need that pressure. And if you haven't put yourself in a position where you have that pressure, try it. Try it and see. We need that. We need a little push sometimes. We need a reason to get up and out of bed and out of the house sometimes. And if that pressure is so you can pay your housekeeper or your childcare provider or your office assistant or your unit meeting assistant, then do it. I think the pressure would create growth for you. Okay. And I'm not saying you have to hire a full-time assistant. Okay, you're going to grow into that. Just get at least 5 hours of help. Start there if you have none. If you've got 5, bump it up to 10. If you've got 10, bump it up to 15. You don't need a 40-hour-a-week executive assistant this week. You just need somebody who can label your product and unpack your boxes and clean out your skincare class bags if you don't have that right now. Another benefit of delegation is it allows you to have joy in the journey. This is a big one for me. Like, I want to work hard and love what I do and love my life. And I know the only way for me and for you, for everyone, for every woman, says every woman on the planet, the only way to do that is to not have to do everything. Okay, we wear so many hats. There's so much on our plate. It's endless. It is endless. I could go 24/7, 7 days a week and still not be done. It's never ending. And so the way I can work hard and enjoy my life and enjoy my family is if I have people helping me. Okay, it's a Proverbs 31 concept. Okay, she had some delegated help. She had some servants. She had some people that she was employing so that it was going to all get done. All right. So joy in the journey, joy in the journey, joy in the journey. If your unit members don't see you have joy in the journey, they will not be as attracted to the leadership position and entrepreneurial business that you're running. And I'm not saying have leisure in the journey. You guys, that's a lot different. I mean, I want my unit in my area to see me work hard. I want to model work ethic. I want to model hard work. I want to model some days going to bed bone weary because I just killed it that day. I want to model that. So I'm not worried about them seeing me work hard or work a lot. I want to make sure they see me having joy in the journey. I want to model work ethic and hard work combined with joy in the journey. And what gives me joy is not having to do more than I have the capacity to do. And that's what some of you are trying to do. You're trying to do more than you actually have the capacity to do while maintaining a level of joy and gratitude. And so hired help brings the joy because you're not stretched too thin and you're not pulling yourself beyond your capacity. Here's a mindset. I think lack of delegation can cause leaders to think they'll have to work too hard to get to the next level. Okay, so if you're working hard to get to 50 unit members or to get to your crews, you're working hard. Good. Work hard to do that. But without delegated help, you can tend to think, and maybe even subconsciously, like, gosh, if I have to work this hard to get here to the cruise, like, oh my gosh, can I work that much harder to get to Cadillac? Like, that's logically what we think. Like, if I have to work this hard to get to this level, like, oh my gosh, how much harder am I going to have to work to get to this level? And without delegation, we can fall into that conscious or subconscious thinking that it's too much work to get there. But I promise you, it's harder. It is harder to earn your cruise with no delegated help than it is to run a huge unit in a national area with delegated help. Like, you work harder than some of the top leaders in Mary Kay if you're trying to get to your next level without delegated help. How does Gloria do it all? Yeah, she's got help. She does not pack a suitcase, my friends. Okay, she does not unpack a suitcase. Yeah, let that sink in. She does not pack or unpack a suitcase. All right, that's the level that she's at because she's got to operate. She's got to operate here. Her life is here. So she needs help to keep her here with a lot of joy in the journey too. Okay, so the first delegated help I hired was in DIQ. And it was my sister, and she would come clean our tiny little apartment and kind of do odd and end stuff. It was just for a few hours a week. That's all the help I had. It was not more complex than that. She just did odd end things and made sure my house was clean. And it blessed her. And here's the thing, you guys, you have this opportunity to be an entrepreneur and actually bless other people. I've got a whole staff of people in my life that keep me straight and keep me going. And you know what? That income I'm giving to them, that's supporting their families. It's paying their mortgage. It's feeding their kids. It's giving them choices. It's creating savings for them. Like, you get to be someone that your success and growth and income gets to bless all of these other families. I'm helping moms stay at home with their kids because they've got a little side job helping me, and it generates the income they need to be able to stay at home. Okay, that's the beauty of entrepreneurship, is that it creates jobs and income for other people who are supporting the growth of your business. And so it was a blessing for my sister to be able to help me in that way. She was in a position where that extra money was necessary and needed, and it was flexible and fun and far better than any other part-time job she would have had to go get. And then she moved to Atlanta very early on in my directorship, and that's when Tina came into my life. Tina was my executive assistant that took our unit and area to the national sales director level. And how did I find her? I found her from an email that got sent out to local directors about somebody looking to be an assistant. She was a Mary Kay consultant in another unit, so she was familiar with the Mary Kay business, and she was just looking to be an assistant because God has gifted her with just supporting from behind the scenes. And she wanted our unit to be a national area, sometimes more than some of my unit members wanted it. Like, she was all in for the goal. But before I got the email, I prayed that God would bring the right person into my life that would be a support. And oh my goodness, has he heard that prayer over the years. A lot of people will ask me, how do you find the right assistant? I'm like, you pray first, you pray. Because that person is a significant person. Like, my assistants, my people who support me and help me, they are a part of our family, especially the people who help with my children. Like, they are our family. And when you have someone who's that intimately involved in your business and your life, because it gets intimate, they start to see your life and your business, you want to make sure it's the right person. So you pray, who's out there that could be a blessing to you and you could be a blessing to them? Who would be that support person who would be the right fit for you to help you move to the next level? Who would be a person that would be a cheerleader and an encourager, and who would not just be helping to have a part-time job, but be helping you to fulfill your mission and calling in your life? You want those kinds of people surrounding you and supporting you. And so you pray God brings those right people in your life. They're out there. They're out there looking for a job. and you could be that person that provides it. So a big question is, like, where do I even start with delegation? And so that when Tina came into my life after my sister had moved to Atlanta, I'm like, okay, this is getting real now. I have to have like a real list for this woman to do for me, because this was her source of income for her family. And so for a couple of weeks, I just kept a notebook open And anytime I would do something that I knew I could teach somebody else to do that was not income producing, it was just kind of busy work, I would just jot it down. Or things that annoyed me that I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't need to be doing this. This is taking up too much time. I just jotted it down. And slowly I just taught Tina to do those things. And slowly she took on more and more of that, which freed me up more and more to do the people stuff and be with the people. And so start small, you guys, start small. If you are wiping down your mirrors, Lord have mercy, you need some help, sister. If you are cleaning your toilets, if you are doing anything that is not creating more income for your family or bringing you a whole heck of a lot of joy, there is somebody out there who's better suited for the job than you are. That's another objection, is nobody can do it like I do. Sure they can. Sure they can. Well, let go of that pride that's like, I'm the only one that can do my email the way I want it. People can do it far better than you can. So let them, and let them shine in the area that they shine in, so you can shine where you're meant to shine as a leader with your people and being in front of people. Okay, so start there. Your task for these topics, you guys, is to practice filling out Beat Your Best. If you've never done that before, fill out Beat Your Best, possibly maybe for the first time. And then make a list of 10 tasks that you can delegate this week. And then start delegating them. And you guys can even start small, like Kroger click list. You guys, if you're in the habit of having to go to the grocery store to get your groceries, do click lists. Delegate to Kroger click list. I know it is $4.95 extra to do that, but your hour or 2 hours you spend doing that is far, far more valuable than $5. Far, far more valuable. And so maybe start there and just have your grocery list done, so you just swing by and pick it up, or have better than that, have somebody else swing by and pick it up and unpack the groceries in your home. So you don't even have to officially start by hiring an assistant. There's stuff you can do with Kroger. You guys, you can order meals that are made for you. You can have your kids do more, maybe have more expectations with your husband. There's ways to delegate and get things off your plate without even hiring someone at this point. And so just identify what are the top 10 things that you're doing that you can move off your plate, and start the process of becoming a master delegator. Okay? It's a thing. It's a thing. And when you embrace this thing, it will naturally create growth. And even better than the growth, it allows you to have joy in the journey. All right. I love you guys. Oh my goodness, have a great week. I'll see you back here as we wrap it up over the next 2 weeks. See you next week.